Right. Let's read a little bit more of Journeys of the Soul. Right? All right. So I'm not going to wait for Instagram to tell me about followers. You just come when you come. And we're reading once again Journeys of the Souls. It's by Michael Newton. He's a PhD and he does past life regressions. He found out that if he took people beyond their consciousness, right, beyond their subconscious, into the ultra consciousness, where the divine resides, right, the super consciousness, where all of that is and that is not resides, that this would help people understand what happens in the afterlife. Because guess what? We all ask that question. We all spend most of our waking time in this human form worried about death. And that's only because we're taught a certain way, that we're born, and we're born alone. We live, work, retire, and then we die. And then in all doing this, most of us, or at least a good portion of us, are taught that God is outside of us and that we have to do penance to work from being sinners. We have to work really hard at it to make ourselves perfect, so God will invite us in to heaven. Now, you may not have been taught that, but I grew up in a version of that, right? But mainly, we worry about this because we don't know, we're not absolutely sure what happens after our bodies die. Well, Michael Newton, Journeys of the Soul, found that when he took people into their meditative state, with past life regressions, that they could, yes, I really heard, and I know you're so hurt, but here is what we get to know about the soul that has left that body. It doesn't mean that it makes it any easier to lose the form body that we know as your grandmother or my mother. My mother's been gone over 30 years, well over 30, almost over 40 years, right? I am now easier in knowing that my mother's and my grandmother's souls chose, when they left their bodies, they chose to stay as spirit consciousness and be my spirit guides. So they're with me all the time. But there are times that I miss that physical body. I miss the physical touch, right? But now this man does what Dolores Cannon does by doing past life regressions, and he found out he can go into the super consciousness, which is the consciousness that is everything and nothing. It's everything, right? So anyway, we're going to begin reading on chapter 13, I wish. Chapter 3, but I'm going to flow, right? Welcome, Goddess, Love 88. Let's see, I felt so bad. Hold on, I'm trying to read what you're saying, Lucy. Myself, been telling myself to go see her, and I didn't. Oh, now, before I start reading, Lucy, you cannot put that burden on yourself. That's your ego saying, see what you did, you waited too long, you didn't go see her, and it's all your fault. It's not. It's not anybody's fault. It's her body letting go of her spirit when it was time to let go, whatever that story was. Like I said, it doesn't make it easier easier for loss. You're still going to have to feel the loss of the form version of your grandmother. But in reading this, I hope it makes it easier to understand that that soul that was part of, or that higher being that was integrated into your grandmother has not forgotten you. She's chosen, I already know this, she's chosen to be one of your guardians to help you through this life if you let her. But when we get past some of the loss and the sadness, then we can actually go into the vibration and the consciousness of actually seeing her. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Is this not why I came on? Is this not why you came in? Right? I appreciate you too. You helped me through some sharing some information about the Bible that I couldn't share with someone who is coming into their awakening and having questions, just like I did once upon a time. So I thank you. Right? Always right on time. The divine is always right on time. So here we go. We are Goddess. I know that you're moving through. Thank you for stopping by. Love you, love you, love you. Goddess Angelique. I know there's a couple of goddess in here. Hold on. Welcome, welcome in. So we're just beginning, guys. We're beginning on chapter 3, Journeys of the Souls. All right. So Michael calls this one Homecoming, right? He begins with, since encountering friendly spirits who meet me or who meet us after death is so important, how do we recognize them? Michael says, I find a general consensus of opinions among subjects in hypnosis about how souls look to each other in the spirit world. A soul may appear as a mass of energy, but apparently it is also possible for non-organic soul energy to display human characteristics. Welcome in, righteous son. Souls often use their capacity to protect former life forms when communicating with each other. Projecting a human life form is only one of the incalculable number of appearances which can be assumed by a soul from their basic energy substance. Later on in chapter 6, Michael says he will discuss another feature of soul identity, the possession of a particular color aura. Oh, I love that. Hearts. Thank you. Okay, Michael says most of my subjects report the first person they see in the spirit world is their personal guide. However, after any life, we can be met by a soulmate, guides. We can be met by a soulmate. Guides and soulmates are not the same. For a former relative or close friend appears to the incoming soul, their regular guide might be absent from the scene. Michael says, I find that usually guides are somewhere in close proximity, monitoring the incomer's arrival in their own way. The soul in my next case has just come through the spiritual guide or gateway and is met by an advanced entity who obviously has had close connection with the subject over a prolonged series in past lives. He didn't say a past life, he said lives, many. Hello, Harry. Right? Although this soulmate entity is not my client's primary guide, he is there to welcome and provide loving encouragement for her. So case 6, Dr. N, and remember his name is Newton, so he calls himself Dr. N. Dr. N asks, what do you see around you? She says, it's as if I'm drifting along on pure white sand, which is shifting around me. And I'm under a giant beach umbrella with brightly colored panels, all vaporized, but banded together too. And I have my balcony door open. It's beginning to heat up, and we need some fresh air coming through. So, hey, hence the outside world comes inside, but we're going to just let it flow. Dr. N says, is anyone here to meet you? And S pauses. I thought I was alone, but in a long hesitation, in the distance, in the light, moving fast toward me, oh my gosh. And the Dr. N says, what is it? And excitedly, she says, it's Uncle Charlie. Very loudly, Uncle Charlie, I'm over here. Dr. N says, why does this particular person come to meet you first? S says, in a preoccupied, far away or far off voice, Uncle Charlie, I've missed you so much. Dr. N says, I repeat my question. Then S says, because of all my relatives, I loved him more than anybody. He died when I was a child and I never got over it. And in parentheses, on a Nebraska farm in this subject's most immediate past life. Dr. N says, how do you know it's Uncle Charlie? Does he have features you recognize? And S says, and in parentheses, the subject is squirming with excitement in her chair. Sure, just as I remember him, jolly and kind and lovable. He's next to me. And she chuckles. Dr. N says, what is so funny? And S says, S meaning the subject, I guess. S says, Uncle Charlie is just as fat as he used to be. And Dr. N says, what does he do next? What does he do next? And S says, he's smiling and he's holding out his hand to me. Dr. N says, does this mean he has a body of some sort with hands? And she laughs. Well, yes and no. I'm floating around and so is he. He's in my mind. He's showing me all of himself to me. And what I am most aware of is his hand stretched out to me. Dr. N says, why is he holding his hand to you in a material way? Why is he holding out his hand to you in a material way? And S pauses. She says, to comfort me, to lead me further into the light. And Dr. N says, and what do you do? I am going with him. And we are thinking about good times we spent together in the hay on the farm. Dr. N asks, and he is letting you see all this in your mind so you will know who he is? Yes, as I know him in my life, as in my last life, so I won't be afraid. He knows I am still a little shocked over my death. Right? And in parentheses, the subject had died suddenly in an automobile accident. Dr. N said, then, right after death, no matter how many deaths we may have experienced in our life, it is possible to be a little fearful until we get used to the spirit world again. Right? So he's explaining to you. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Dr. N, let's see, S says, it's not really fear that's wrong. More like I'm apprehensive, maybe. It varies for me each time. The car crash caught me unprepared. I'm a little mixed up. Dr. N says, all right, let's go forward a bit. What is Uncle Charlie doing now? And S says, he is taking me to the place I should go. And Dr. N says, on the count of 3, let's go there. 1, 2, 3. Tell me what's happening. S takes a long pause. There are other people around. All right. There are other people around, and they look friendly as I approach. They seem to want me to join them. Welcome, evolving Sheena. They seem to want me to join them. Dr. N says, continue to move towards them. Do you get the impression that they might be waiting for you? And in parentheses, there's the word recognition. And she says yes with an exclamation point. In fact, I realize I have been with them before. And then pauses. No, don't go. And Dr. N says, what's happening now? S is very upset. Uncle Charlie is leaving me. Why is he going away? Dr. N says, I stopped the dialogue to use standard calming techniques in this circumstance, and then we continue. Dr. N says, look deeply within your inner mind. Look deeply with your inner mind. You must realize why Charlie is leaving you at this point. And S says, yes. He stays in a different place than I do. He just came to meet me, to bring me here. Dr. N says, I think I understand. Uncle Charlie's job was to be the first person to meet you after your death and see you're okay. I'd like to know if you feel better now and more at home. And S says, yes, I do. That's why Uncle Charlie has left me with others. And Dr. Newton has a couple of paragraphs. A curious phenomenon about the spirit world is that important people in our lives are always able to greet us. Even though we may already be living another life in another body. This will be explained in chapter 6. And in chapter 10, I will explain the ability of souls to defy their essence so they can be in more than one body at a time on earth. Ooh, I didn't even know that. Can't wait. Dr. N also goes on to say, usually at this juncture in a soul's passage, the carry-on luggage of Earth's physical and mental burdens are diminishing for 2 reasons. First, the evidence of a carefully directed order and harmony in the spirit world has brought back the remembrance of what they left behind before they chose to be in a physical form. Secondly, there is the overwhelming impact of seeing people they thought they would never meet again after they died on earth. Here's an example. Case number 7. Dr. N, now that you have had the chance to adjust to your surroundings in the spirit world, tell me what effect this place has on you. And S says, it's so warm and comforting. I'm lived to be away from earth. Relieved. Why did the divine have me say relieved as relived? Interesting. I just want to stay here always. There is no tension or no worries, only a sense of well-being. And I'm just floating, and it feels so beautiful. And Dr. N says, as you continue to float along, what is your next major impression as you pass the spiritual gateway? And she says, familiarity. Welcome, Robert. Dr. N says, what is familiar? And the subject says, after hesitating for a minute, people, friends, are here, I think. Dr. N says, do you see people as familiar people on earth? And S says, I have a sensation of their presence. They are people I knew. Dr. N says, all right, keep moving along. What do you see next? And S says, lights, soft, kind of cloudy like. Grand rising. Dr. N says, as you are moving, does this light continue to look the same? Oh no, they are growing, blobs of energy, and I know they are people. Dr. N says, are you moving towards them, or are they coming towards you? And S says, we are drifting towards each other, but I am going slower than they are because I'm uncertain what to do. Dr. N says, well, just relax. Continue floating while reporting back to me everything that you see. And S, with a pause, says, now I'm seeing half-formed human shapes from the waist up only. Their outlines are transparent too, but I can see through them. Dr. N says, do you see any sort of features? A gunning of an engine. All right. Welcome, Shakire. I hope I pronounced that well. Welcome to this reading. I am reading Journeys of the Souls. Does each entity have two eyes? And she says, that's right. And then Dr. N says, do these eyes have the appearance of human eyes with an iris and a pupil? No. Different. They are larger, black orbs radiating light towards me. Thought. And in parentheses, then with a relieved sigh, oh. And Dr. N says, go on. I'm starting to recognize them. They are sending messages to my mind, thoughts about themselves, and the shapes are changing into people. Dr. N said, people with physical human features? Yes. Oh, look, it's him. And Dr. N says, who do you see? And S, in parentheses, begins to laugh and cry at the same time. I think it's Larry. He's in front of everybody else. He is the first one I really see. Larry. It's Larry. Dr. N, in parentheses, after giving my subject a chance to recover a little, the soul entity of Larry is in front of an assortment of people. You know? And S says, yes, now I know the ones I want most to see in front. Some of my other friends are in back. Dr. N says, can you see them all clearly? And S says, no, the ones in back are hazy, far off, but I have the sensation of their presence. Larry is in front, coming up to me. Dr. N says, is the husband from your last life you told me about earlier? And the, in parentheses, S subject rushes on. Yes, we had such a wonderful life together. Gunter was so strong. Everyone was against our marriage in his family. Jean deserted from the Navy to save me from the bad life I was living in Marcellus. Always wanting me. Okay, and then in a paragraph, Dr. N says, this subject is so excited, her past lives are tumbling one on top of the other. Larry, Gunter, and Jean were all former husbands, but the same soulmate. I was glad we had a chance to review earlier who these people were in sessions before this interval of recall in the spirit world. Besides Larry, her recent American husband, Jean, was a French sailor in the 19th century, and Gunter was the son of German aristocrats living in the 18th century. Dr. N says, now remember, Dr. N, this is Michael Newton. He's a PhD, and he does past life regression. Okay? Dr. N asks, what are the two of you doing right now? And S says, we're embracing. Dr. N says, if a third party were to look at the two of you embracing at this moment, what would they see? And S has no answer. Dr. N, and in parentheses, the subject is so engrossed in the scene with her soulmate, there are tears streaming down her physical face. So I wait a moment and then try again. What would you and Larry look like to someone watching you in the spirit world right now? And the subject says, they would see two massive bright lights swirling around each other, I guess. And in parentheses, the subject begins to settle down, and I help wipe her tears off her face with a tissue. Dr. N asks, what does this signify? S says, we are hugging, expressing love, connection. It makes us feel happy. Dr. N asks, after you met your soulmate, what happens next? And then in parentheses, subject tightly grips the recliner chair. And then she says, oh, they are all here, and I only sensed them before. Now more are coming closer to me. Dr. N says, and this happens after your husband comes near you? And S says, yes, my mother, she is coming over to me. I miss her so much. Oh, Mom. And then the subject begins to cry. Dr. N says, all right. S says, oh, please don't ask me any more questions. I just want to enjoy. And in parentheses, the subject appears to be silent, appears to be in silent conversation with her mother of the last life. Dr. N waits a minute. I know you are enjoying this meeting, but I need you to help me know what is going on. Hi, Domini. Dr. N says, how do you manage to hold on to each other with no bodies? And then in parentheses, Dr. N says, there's a sigh of exasperation at me. We envelop each other in light, of course. That's what she says. We envelop each other in light. You know, don't you get it? I got to stop what I'm doing to explain this to you. Dr. N says, tell me what that is like for spirits. And S says, like being wrapped in a bright light blanket of love. Dr. N says, I see. Then there's 3 dots because he's about to say something, and the subject interrupts with a high-pitched laugh of recognition. Tim! It's my brother Tim. He died so young. He died in a drowning accident. He was 14 years old. It's so wonderful to see him here. The subject is waving her arms. And there is my best friend Wilma from next door. We are laughing together over boys like we did while sitting up in her attic. And Dr. N, after the subject mentions her aunt and a couple of other friends, what do you think determines the sequence of how all of these people are coming to greet you? And S takes a pause. Why? How much we have meant to each other. What else? Dr. N says, and with some you have lived many lives, while with others perhaps 1 or 2. And S pauses. And she says, yes, I have been with my husband the most. Dr. N says, do you see your guide around anywhere? He is here. I see him floating off to the side. He knows some of my friends too. And Dr. N says, why do you call your guide him? And S says, we all show what we want. We all show what we want of ourselves. He always relates to me as a masculine nature. It's right and it's very natural. Welcome. Dr. N says, and does he watch over you in all your lives? Sure. And after death too. Here, he is always my protector. Dr. Newton goes on to say, our reception committee is planned in advance for us as we enter the spirit world. This case demonstrates how uplifting familiar faces can be to an incoming younger soul. I find there are different number of entities waiting in greeting parties after each life. Although the meeting format varies depending on a soul's special need. I have learned there is nothing haphazard about our spiritual associates knowing exactly when we are due and where to meet us upon our arrival in the spirit world. Welcome in. Frequently, an entity who is significant to us will be waiting a little in front of the others who want to be on hand as we come through the gateway, but is drastically reduced to amount almost nothing more than advanced souls. Oh, hold on, I skipped. The size of welcoming parties not only changes for everyone after each life, but is drastically reduced to almost nothing for more advanced souls where spiritual comfort becomes less necessary. Case 9 at the end of this chapter is an example of this type of spiritual passage. Case 6 and 7 both represent one of the 3 ways newly arrived souls are received back in the spirit world. These 2 souls are met shortly after death by a principal entity. Welcome, Pearly, your own. Thank you, but battery out. Ciao. Ciao. Thank you, Roberta. Thank you for joining. Hope you charge that battery. All righty. Let's see. Okay. Case 6 and 7 both represent one of the three ways newly arrived souls are received back in the spirit world. These two souls were met shortly after death by a principal entity, followed by others of decreasing influence. Case 7 recognized people more quickly than Case 6. When we meet such spirits in a gathering right after our death, we find they have been spouses, parents, grandparents, siblings, uncles, aunts, cousins, and dear friends in our past lives. We have witnessed some gut-wrenching emotional scenes with he says, I have witnessed some gut-wrenching emotional scenes with my clients at this stage in their passage. The emotional meetings which take place between souls at this interval in spiritual passage are only a prelude to our eventual placement within a specific group of entities at our own maturity level. These meetings provide another emotional high for a subject in superconsciousness recall. Spiritual organizational arrangements involving how groups form and are cross-matched with other entities will be described in subsequent chapters. For the present, it is important that we understand welcoming entities may not be part of our own particular learning group in the spirit world. Hello, Epic Dan. I haven't seen you in a while. I hope all is well. Okay. Let's see. This is because all of the people who are close to us in our lives are not on the same developmental level. Simply because they choose to meet us right after death out of love and kindness does not mean that they are all part of our spiritual learning group when we arrive at the final destination of the journey. For instance, in Case 6, Uncle Charlie was clearly a more advanced soul than my subject and may even have been serving in the capacity of a spiritual guide. It was evident to me that one of the primary tasks of Uncle Charlie's soul was to help Case 6 as a child in life just ended. In the life just ended. His responsibility continued right after my subject's death. With Case 7, the important first contact was Larry, a true soulmate on the same level as the subject. Notice also in Case 7, my subject's spiritual guide was not conspicuous among her former relatives and friends. However, as the scene unfolded, there are indications of a spiritual guide orchestrating the whole meeting process while remaining in the background. I see this in many cases, says Dr. Newton. The second manner in which we are met right after death involves a quiet, meaningful encounter with one's spiritual guide where no one else is revealed in the immediate vicinity, as in Case 5. Case 8 further illustrates this sort of meeting. What type of after-death meeting we do experience appears to involve the particular style of our spiritual guide, along with requisites of our individual character. I have to run, but I will catch the next reading, Queen. Oh, no problem. Have a beautiful, glorious day. This will be in replay. All right? Ezra, I am not doing a taking on requests for videos. all right? Because I'm not doing a smoking session. I don't smoke, all right? So I'm going to continue reading. Thank you very much for your request. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Let's see, where did I leave off? What further illustrates this sort of meeting? What type of after-death meeting we do experience appears to involve the particular style of our spiritual guide, along with requisites of our individual character. I find the duration of these first meetings with our guides does vary after each life, depending upon the circumstances of that life. Case 8 shows the very close relationship people have with their spiritual guides. Many guides have strange sounding names, while others are rather conventional. I find it interesting that the old-fashioned religious terms of having a guardian angel. Having a guardian angel is now used metaphysically to denote an empathic spirit. To be honest, this is a term I once denigrated as being foolishly loaded with wishful thinking and representing an outdated mythology at odds with the modern world. I don't have that belief anymore about guardian angels. I am repeatedly told that the soul itself is androgynous, and yet in the same breath, clients declare sex is not an unimportant factor. I have learned that all souls can and do assume female and male mental impressions towards other entities as a form of identity preference. Cases 6 and 7 show the importance of a newly arrived soul in seeing faces that are familiar, identified by gender. This is also true in the next case. Another reason why I selected case 8 is to indicate how and why souls choose to visually appear in human form to others in the spirit world. Let me see. We have 42 seconds. Okay, so we have about 15 seconds. So we are going to do case 8. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. This is just one infinite possibility. Okay? One size does not fit all. Case 8. Dr. N says, you have just started to actually leave the Earth's astral plane now and are moving further and further into the spirit world. I want you to tell me what you feel. Subject says, the silence. So peaceful. Dr. N says, is anyone coming to meet you? Yes, my friend Rachel. She is always here for me. She is always here for me when I die. Dr. N says, is Rachel a soulmate who has been with you in other lives, or is she someone who has always remained here? S, and in parentheses, with some indignation, says, she doesn't always stay here. No, she is with me a lot in my mind when I need her. She is my own guardian. And she says it in a possessive pride. Note, Dr. N has a note for us. The attributes of guides as differentiated from soulmates and other supportive entities will be explained in Chapter 8. Dr. N says, why do you call this entity she? Aren't spirits supposed to be sexless? And S says, that's right, in a literal way, because we are capable of both attributes. Rachel wants to show herself to me as a woman for the visual knowing, and it is a mental thing as well with me. Dr. N says, are you locked into male or female attributes during your sexual, my ego, man, during your spiritual existence? And S says, no. As souls, there are periods in our existence when we are more inclined towards one gender than another. Especially this natural preference, eventually this natural preference evens out. Dr. N asks, would you describe how Rachel's soul actually looks to you at this moment? And quietly, the young woman says, or S says, youngest. She's a youngish woman, as I remember her best. Small with delicate features, a determined expression on her face, so much knowledge and love. Dr. N says, then you have known Rachel on earth? And in parentheses, S is responding with nostalgia. Once, long time ago, she was close to me in life. Now, she's my guardian. I need to embrace some living water. I'm embracing the healing of my throat chakra. Okay. Then the next question is, what do you feel when you look at her? And S says, oh, a calmness, tranquility, oh, love, just unconditional love. Dr. N says, do you and Rachel actually look at each other with eyes in a human way? And S kind of hesitates for a second. Sort of, but different. You see the mind behind what we take to be our eyes. It's a run-on sentence. Let me slow my roll. S says, you see the mind behind what we take as to be our eyes, because that is what we relate to on earth. Of course, when we do the same thing as humans on earth, too. So she's seeing her with her mind's eye through the spiritual. Dr. N says, what can you do on earth with your eyes that you can also do, or that can also be done in the spirit world? S says, when you look into a certain person's eyes on the ground, even people you have just met, you see a light you have known before. Well, that tells you something about them. As a human, you don't know why, but your soul recalls. In the book, it's written, remembers, but the divine wanted me to say, the soul recalls. And in the human form, we'll go, hey, you look familiar. Do I know you? Have you ever done that before? I know I have. So, Michael has a note. He says, I've heard about the light of spiritual identity being reflected in the human eyes as a soulmate expressed in a variety of ways from many clients. As for myself, I have knowingly experienced this instant recognition only once in my life at the moment I first saw my own wife. The effect is startling, and it's a bit eerie as well. Dr. N says, are you saying that sometimes on earth when two people look at each other, they may feel they have known one another before? And S says, yes, it's called deja vu. Dr. N says, let's go back to Rachel in the spiritual world. If your guardian did not project an image of herself in human form to you. Here's the question. Would you have known her anyway? And S says, well, naturally, we can always identify each other by the mind, but it's nicer this way. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a social thing. Seeing a familiar face puts you at ease. Dr. N says, seeing human features of people you know in past lives is a good thing then? Particularly in the readjustment period after leaving Earth? And S says, yeah. Otherwise you feel a little lost at first, a little lonesome, and maybe confused too. Seeing people as they were helps you get used to things here faster. When I first came back, seeing Rachel is always a big boost. Dr. N says, does Rachel present herself to you in human form right after each death on Earth as a way of getting you readjusted to the spiritual world? And eagerly she says, oh yes, yes she does. She gives me security. I feel better when I see others, and I have known before. Dr. N says, and do you speak to these people? No one speaks. We communicate by mind. And Dr. N says telepathically with a question mark. And S says yes. Dr. N says, is it possible for souls to have private conversations which can be telepathically picked up by others? A honk of yes. She takes a pause and she says, for intimacy, yes. Dr. N says, how is that done? And S says, by touch. It's called touching communication. And then Dr. N has a note. When two spirits come so close to each other, they are conjoined. My subjects say they can send private thoughts by touch, which passes through them as electrical sound impulses. In most instances, subjects in hypnosis do not wish to talk to me about these personal confidences. S says, from my mass of energy, I just think of the features I want, but I can't tell you what gives me the ability to do it. Dr. N says, well, then can you tell me why? And can you tell me why you and other souls project certain features at different times? And S takes a long pause. It depends on where you are in your movement around here, when you see others, and your state of mind then. State of mind meaning consciousness within the one consciousness. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that make you just smile? Oh, that you have consciousness within the one consciousness. Oh, yeah. Okay, Dr. N says, that's what I want to get at. Tell me more about recognition. S says, you see, recognition depends on a person's feelings when you meet them here. They will show you what they want you to see of themselves and what they want you to think, or what they think you want to see. It also depends upon the circumstances of your meeting with them. Dr. N asks, can you be more specific? What different circumstances can cause any form to materialize in a certain way towards another spirit? S says, it is the difference between your being on their turf or your turf. They may choose to show you one set of features in one place, where in another you might see another feature. And Dr. N notes, welcome, trial whisperer. Dr. N says, are you telling me that a soul may show you one face at one gateway in the spirit world and another image later in a different situation? And S says, that's right. And then Dr. N says, why? And S says, like I was telling you, a lot of how we present ourselves to each other depends on what we are feeling right then, what relationship we have had, or what relationship we have with a certain person, or where they are. Dr. N says, please tell me if I understand this correctly. The identity souls project to each other depends on timing and location in the spirit world, as well as mood and maybe psychological states of mind when they meet. And S says, sure thing, and it works both ways. It's interconnecting. Welcome. Dr. N says, then how can we know the true character of a soul's consciousness with all these changes in each other's image? S just laughs, and it's making my soul laugh too. The image you project never hides who you really are from the rest of us. Anyway, it's not the same kind of emotion we know on Earth. Here it is more abstract. Why we project certain features and thoughts is based on a confirmation of ideas. And Dr. N says, ideas? What do you mean? What do you mean? Your sentiments at the time? Oh, hold on. Do you mean your sentiments at the time? And S says, yes, sort of. Because these human features are a part of our physical lives in other places. We discovered things and developed ideas. It is all a continuum of us here, a continuum for us to use here. Never thought of that, huh? That's why I asked my higher being, okay, now that I know you have a choice to make between between a positive polarity and a negative polarity, can I help you out? Right? So Dr. N says, well, if in each of our past lives we have a different face, which one do we assume between lives? S says, we mix it up. We assume those features which the person you see will most recognize you as, developing on what you want to communicate or accomplish. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Dr. N says, what about communication without projecting features? And S says, sure, we do that. It's normal. But I mentally associate with people more quickly with features. Dr. N says, do you favor projecting a certain set of facial features? I like the face with the mustache, having a rock hard jaw. Let's wait until the truck passes by. Listen to that vibration of the squealing. All right. Then Dr. N says, you mean when you left Jeff Tanner, the cow puncher from Texas in the life we discussed earlier? And she laughs. That's it. I have had faces like Jeff's in other lives too. Dr. N says, but why Jeff? Was it just because he was you in your past life? No. No, I felt good as Jeff. It was a happy, uncomplicated life. Damn, I looked great too. My face resembled those billboard smoking ads you used to see a long time ago. Oh, we're getting ready for the fireworks, guys. But that didn't sound like a firework, right? And then S is chuckling. I enjoy showing off my handlebar mustache as Jeff. Dr. N says, but that was only one life. People not associated with you in that life may not recognize you here. It's not a question. It's just a statement. S says, oh, they would get it when, hold on. It's about to be, the divine says it's about to be a run-on sentence. So take a little water. Good morning, Auntie. Sent from heaven. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Good morning. Grand rising. Okay, so Dr. N says to S, but that was only one life. People not associated with you in that life may not recognize you here. And S said, oh, they would get it was me soon enough. I could change to something else. But I like myself as Jeff the best right now. Dr. N says, so this goes back to what you were saying about all of us really having one identity, regardless of the number of facial features we might project as souls. And S says, yes, you see everyone as they truly are. Some only want their best side to show because of what you might think of them. They don't fully appreciate that it is what you are striving for, which is important, not how you appear. S says, we get a lot of laughs, but how spirit thinks you should look. Even taking faces we've never had on earth, and that's okay. So they play at putting on costumes and having fun, and they still know each other. Isn't that glorious? I'm just saying glorious. Let's keep reading. Then Dr. N says, are we talking about the more mature souls then? And S says, yes, usually. They can get stuck, but we don't judge. In the end, they are going to be all right. Dr. N says, when I think of the spirit world as a place of supreme all-knowing, intelligent consciousness, and you make it appear that souls have moods and vanity as though they were back on earth. And S burst out laughing. People are people no matter how they look on their physical worlds. Welcome, Taurus girl. Welcome, KT. So blessed. I like that. Souls have fun. We like to play. We like to put on costumes and play. But we know each other. We vibrate each other. We shine each other. Hey, how are you doing? Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, Dr. N says, Dr. N says, oh, do you see souls who have gone to planets other than Earth? And S pauses for a minute. And she says, once in a while. Dr. N says, what features do souls from other planets besides Earth show you? And S says evasively, I kind of stick with my own people, but we can assume any feature we want for communication. And then Dr. N says, note, gaining information from the subjects I have had who are able to recall leading physical past lives in non-human forms on other worlds is always challenging. Recollection of these experiences are usually limited to older, more advanced souls, as we will see soon. We will see later in another chapter. So S says, how N says, is this ability to transmit features to each other as souls a gift the Creator provided for us based upon spiritual needs? S says, how should I know? I'm not God. There I have to say, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I kind of wonder if that is the subject's ego that's speaking, because we're all source. At least that's what I believe. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Right? See, I'm just going to take what resonates and leave that little part for more information. Okay? Okay, so it might be that as she's reacclimating this formless body, the spirit, that's the soul that's coming home, she might need to go through a certain amount of layers of the divine for recalling. Maybe. I'm feeling that. Woo, I'm feeling that. Okay. So Dr. N takes another paragraph. Dr. N says, the concept of souls having fallibility comes as a surprise to some people. The statement of case 8 and all of my other clients indicate most of us are still far from perfect beings in the spirit world. The essential purpose for reincarnating is self-improvement. The physical ramifications of our development, both in and out of the spirit world, is the foundation of my work, right? Take what resonates. I take what resonates because the divine has told me that all our higher beings that took on human incarnations came from the divine. There are aspects of the divine seeking itself through, in, and as a physical form, bringing that information back in and merging it with all of the divine everywhere all at once, and that is not at once. So take what resonates. I can understand that Earth has so many realms. It's so wild. Yeah. Okay. So then Michael goes on to say, we have seen the importance of meeting other entities while entering the spirit world. Besides uniting with our guides and other familiar beings, I have mentioned a third form of re-entry after death. This is the rather disconcerting manner in which a soul is met by no one. Okay? Although it is an uncommon occurrence for most of my clients, I still feel a little sorry for those subjects who describe how they are pulled by an unseen force all alone in their final destination, where contact is finally made with others. This would be akin to a landing in a foreign country where you have hold on. We're going to have a run-on sentence. This would be akin to landing in a foreign country where a foreign country where you have been before, but without any baggage handlers or tourists, information desks to assist you with your directions. I suppose what bothers me the most about this type of entry in the apparent lack of any soul acclimation, my own concepts of what it might be like to be alone at the spiritual gateway and beyond is not shared by those souls who utilize the option of going solo. Actually, people in this category are experienced travelers, as Older, more mature souls, they seem to require no initial support system. They know right where they are going after death. I suspect the process is accelerated for them as well, because they manage more rapidly wind up where they belong than those who stop to meet others. Welcome. So, when we, hold on, let me see, 70 minutes, that's not bad. Let me see, the divine wants me to look. Okay, this will be where we stop. We'll read case 9 and then we will stop. Actually, that will take us through chapter 3. So, hey, the divine knows what the divine is doing. So, Michael says, case 9. Dr. N says, what happens to you the moment of death? And the subject says, I feel a great sense of release and I move fast. The subject says, I feel a great sense of release and I am moving fast. Dr. N says, how would you characterize your departure from Earth into the spirit world? The subject says, I shoot up like a column of light and I'm on my way. Dr. N says, how has it always been this fast for you? And the subject says, no, only after my last series of lives. And Dr. N says, why? I know the way. I don't need anybody to show me. I'm in a hurry. Dr. N says, and it doesn't bother you that you are not met by anyone? And the subject just laughs. There was a time when it was good, but I don't require that sort of thing anymore. Dr. N says, whose decision was it to allow you to enter the spirit world without assistance? And the subject takes a pause and then shrugs. It was a mutual decision between my teacher and me when I knew I could handle things by myself. Dr. N says, and you don't feel rather lost or lonely right now? And S, they call it S, but it's subject. Are you kidding? I don't need my hand held anymore. I know where I'm going and I'm anxious to get there. I'm being pulled along by a magnet and I just enjoy the ride. Dr. N says, explain to me this pulling process and how it works and how it will take you to your destination. S says, I'm riding on a wave, a beam of light. Welcome. A beam of light. And Dr. N says, is this beam electromagnetic or what? And S says, well, it's similar to the bands of a radio with someone tuning the dial and finding the right frequency for me. Dr. N says, are you saying you are being guided by an invisible force without much voluntary control, and that you can't speed things up as you did right after death? And S says, yes. I must go where I must go with the wave bands of light. The waves have their direction, and I am flowing with it. It's easy. They all do it for you, or they do it all for you. And then Dr. N says, who does it for you? And S says, the ones in control. I don't really know. And Dr. N says, then you are not in control? You do not have responsibility for finding your own destination? And S takes a pause. My mind is in tune with the moment. My mind is in tune with the movement. I flow with the resonance. And then there's 3 periods. And Dr. N says, resonance? You hear sounds? And S says, yes. The wave beam vibrates. I'm locked into it. Dr. N says, let's go back to your statement about the radio. Is your spiritual travel influenced by vibrational frequencies such as high, medium, and low resonant qualities? And S says, laughing, that's not bad. Yeah, I'm on a line like a homing beacon of sound and light, and it's part of my own tonal pattern, my own frequency. Dr. N says, I'm not sure I understand how light and vibration combine to set up directional bands. And S says, think of a monster tuning fork inside of a flashing strobe light. And Dr. N says, oh, then there's an energy here. And S says, we have energy within an energy field. So it isn't just the lines that we travel on. We generate energy ourselves. We can use these forces depending on our experience. Dr. N asks or states, then your maturity level does give you some element of control in the rate and the direction of travel. Yes, but not right here. Later, when I am settled and I can move around much more on my own, now I'm just being pulled and I'm supposed to go with the flow. Dr. N says, okay, with this, stay with this and describe to me what happens next. And there's a short pause with S. I'm moving alone, being honed into my proper space, going where I belong. And then in a paragraph, Dr. Newton says, in hypothesis, the hypothetical conscious mind works in conjunction with the unconscious mind to receive and answer messages between our deep-seated memories. The subject case in 9 is an electrical engineer, and thus he utilized some technical descriptions to express his spiritual sensations. This client's predisposition to explain his thoughts on soul travel in technical terms was encouraged, but not dictated by my suggestion. All questions about this. All subjects bring their own segments of knowledge to bear on answering my questions about the spirit world. This case used physical laws familiar to him to describe motion, whereas other persons might have said souls move in this track with a vacuum. Before continuing with the passage of souls in the spirit world, I want to discuss those entities who either have not made it this far after physical death or will be diverted from the normal travel en route. So that will lead us, transition us into chapter 4, which is where I'm going to stop. I am going to close this circle of information, this circle of energy. I am going to close it with 118. Hold on, the truck is 10845, 10845, 10845. I'm closing this energy. Any energy that is in this room that was meant for distraction or upheaval, I surrender it to the divine. The divine will transmute it, and alchemize it. Energy cannot be, it has never been created, nor can it be destroyed. Therefore, I give it to the divine for transmutation, for alchemization, and to be utilized as it so needs to be, for whom it needs to be utilized for. Take what resonates. Take your energy back with you. It has wisdom and understanding. Discern it. One size doesn't fit all. And it's Journey of the Souls. Take what resonates. However you want to address your after-death experience with your souls or your higher being or your spirit, whatever you call the inner being that's within you, take what resonates. This is one of infinite possibilities. He's giving you infinite information based on his learning, based on how his inner being has interacted with other souls leaving the body. He has found his way of being connected with the super consciousness, the consciousness of the divine. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Peace, love, unconditional love, unconditional light, and beingness. I love you. Thank you for joining me. And if you like my reading rooms, let somebody else know. Invite them in. You know, whether I'm reading this impromptu book or whether I'm reading the 3 Waves of Volunteers, take it in. I'll be back around 2:15 to start reading another. We're down to 2 chapters in this book, but they're 2 long chapters. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And this will be saved and in replay. And even in the replay, the divine is always moving and dropping little nuggets for you. Whether you call them your golden nuggets or your silver nuggets or your copper nuggets, it's nuggets for you. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. One size just doesn't fit all. So what's good for one person may not be good for you. Just take what you need. Thank you for joining me. See you later.